Hey everyone, Krazyed here, and I'm back with another video. This time I'm going to be talking in more detail about the Atlas that I featured in my last video. Now we've had a lot of announcements today. We've got a video from Ziggy D about all the changes in detailed mechanics about how the Atlas is going to be working going forward. I'm going to start by talking about the announcement from this morning. Then I'm going to go into the most recent announcement that Chris put out tonight, just a little while ago, and some of the discussion, and then I'm going to get into how to manage your Atlas based on everything that we've got. And I think that this can be a fairly detailed guide, but I want to go ahead and get this out of the way. If you're already decided one way or the other, if you're going to unlock every map, you probably don't need to be here. If you're going to have fun, that's cool, and that's fine. I respect that. I also respect that if you are the Ziz, Havoc, Insane, I'm going to lock in my tier 13s, 14s, 15s, specifically tier 12s, probably 2 and 11s. I know exactly what I'm going to do with the Atlas. You're a power Uber gamer, fine, that's cool too. You guys probably don't need to be here either. But this video is really going to be for everyone in between, where maybe you're teetering, you don't know how to exactly manage your Atlas, and I'm going to give you some tips, and we're going to talk about that. But first, let's go ahead and get into the detailed mechanics of the Atlas. First off, Chris announced that with initial maps, you will find multiple times throughout Act 4 the Tier 1 maps. There's 4 of them. You can get one from the Piety mission, you can get one from killing Dominus, you can farm them in Dried Lake, so there's plenty ample opportunity to farm the Tier 1 maps. That's all well and good. So let's go from there. The Atlas of Worlds. Now, Chris says in his announcement, the Atlas helps you understand what maps can drop in each area, tracks your progress through completing the maps, allows you to upgrade maps, and represents mods you have added to areas of the Atlas. It isn't a place to physically store your maps, and it doesn't grant unlimited access to maps. You still need to find and use the map items as normal. Your progress, upgrades, and mods on the Atlas of Worlds are shared between all characters in your account in that league. So let's go down. In my last video I touched on map drops, and there was some speculation, and they're talking about this specifically now. So, for the most part, map drop system works the same as before. The new rule is that the maps can drop from the following groups. Maps you've previously completed in the league, including on other characters. So any map you've quote-unquote completed, and we'll get to that in just a minute. Maps that are connected to the one that you're currently playing on the Atlas. So just like in my last video, if you completed tier 5, all the connected maps while you're running that tier 5 can drop potentially in that map, but only in that one map. When a map drops, its tier is entirely unchanged by the choice of which maps you have unlocked so far. Unlocking more maps doesn't change how many specific maps of a tier you receive, but increases the number of different maps that you see in that tier. So, once you've unlocked one tier 10, for instance, then that's the only tier 10, unless you're running a different tier 9 map or a different tier 11 map connected to a tier 10 map that can drop. That's really important, and we'll get to that later. Unique maps work on the same as other maps. The only drop in maps that they are connected to in the Atlas until you have completed them once. Then they drop as normal. As missions, Zana can offer you unique maps that haven't unlocked yet. These may be lower level than the level of the actual unique map is now. Map completion. When a map has been completed, it becomes available to drop in other maps, regardless of whether they're connected. That's a key point. So once you've completed a map, so if you buy a tier 7 map, even though you've only completed tier 4s up to that point, you complete the map, it can now drop. That's very important because that allows you to skip to the Gorge map that everyone, for instance, is talking about. But you can apply that to any map you want. You can go ahead, if you're really stuck on tier 3s, then you can skip to a tier 5 or a 6 if you really want to. Map completion. Basically, map completion is white maps, kill the boss. Yellow maps, kill the boss in a yellow map. So you have to alch a map or chaos it or do something to it. And in red tier maps, you must kill the boss of a corrupted rare version of a map. The easiest way to do this, as many people have pointed out, is to transmute or alt a map to where it has one property, then regal it to add an additional one property and make it rare, then corrupt it from there. Your best result is probably just going to be un-ID it to give it 30 additional rarity, and it keeps the same properties, but it could also turn into an 8 property map, add a tier to it, subtract a tier from it. There's a lot of things that can happen. Shaper's Orbs. Shaper's Orbs are rewarded items that upgrade maps of specific tiers to shaped versions of those maps. There are 15 available, and they are distributed among specific maps in the Atlas, one for each of the map tiers 6 through 12. 2 at tier 13, and 3 at each of the tier 14 and 15s. Earning 1% cumulative map bonus mentioned above earns you the Shaper's Orb from that map, if it has one. So, generally you earn the Shaper's Orbs from, like, let's say you want to upgrade a tier 10 into a tier 15, for example. You have to complete the tier 15 map that would grant you the Shaper's Orb, then you can apply it to a tier 10. I was really hoping this would be a little bit different, but that's okay. You get Shaper's Orbs, you can't trade them, you can respec your Shaper's Orbs for 20 Cartographer's Chisels and 5 Chaos Orbs of Regret to a vendor. This is intentionally an expensive operation. Cartographer Sextants, they reveal that there are different levels, so you need white ones for white maps, yellow ones for yellow maps, red ones for red maps, and obviously yellow and red ones are rarer than the white ones. Trading maps, you can trade and do maps regardless. Once you complete a map, quote-unquote, it unlocks it on your Atlas. Standard players and legacy maps. Many players in the Permanent League and Legacy Leagues have pre-2.0 or post-2.0 maps. These maps are still running at the same level, so you don't need to do a fire sale on your Jungle Valleys because they're going to be tier 1. You can still run them as tier 7, but they unlock a random tier 7 map. I think the same is going to be done for Crypt maps. In fact, they still say, they mention, for example, if you take a Gorge map from Ascendancy and run in an Atlas of Worlds, it'll still be a tier 9. So it will unlock a random tier 9 map. So your Crypt map will unlock a tier 9 Crypt map. Jungle Valley, or not Jungle Valley, but Tropical Island would unlock a tier 8 at that point. Map corruption and upgrading. Combining 3 maps of vendor upgrades to a specific map from the next tier up. This doesn't change much, only it's specifically related to maps that are connected on the Atlas. And Guardians of the Void and Shaper describes the fragments that drop from the 4 Guardians as being similar to Azeri fragments, and in fact you can put them into the map device with other maps and they give 10 quantity, similar to a fragment. There's also a link to Ziggy D's guide of everything you need to know about the Atlas that describes almost everything that we're talking about. The things that that video doesn't talk about is what Chris announced just a little while ago. I'm going to go ahead and read it for you guys, and I'll throw a little bit of commentary in here. We've been reading a lot of feedback about Atlas and wanted to briefly address the concerns around players being able to choose which areas they unlock and to influence what maps drop of a certain tier. The ability for players to choose what maps they play is an important and positive aspect to the Atlas system. Everyone has their own preferences for maps, and we want there to be some choices about whether to unlock everything or leave a few maps disabled in order to maximize your own goals. Having said that, we want to address 2 important points that will hopefully mitigate concerns that players have. 1. Map balance. Historically, some maps have been better than others in different ways. Some have had more linear and more open layouts, Gorge and Plateau. Others have had easier signature monsters or bosses that are safer to kill. Cells, for instance. A lot of work has gone into balancing this out so that maps are more comparable. In some cases, additional monsters have been added, hence increasing item drops, including maps, to mitigate the additional time and challenge that certain maps entail. We will continue to work through improving this balance even after release. Our goal is that the choices of whether to leave certain maps locked is very debatable within the community, and there's no clear right answer. Respecting decisions. We believe that the correct and dominant strategy will be for players to unlock all maps. But since players are afraid that they will damage their account permanently if they unlock the wrong maps, we have decided to add a way to respec map completions on the Atlas. 3 currency items, 1 for each color of maps, will be available from vendor recipes for this purpose. They'll likely be measured in cartographer sextants of the appropriate colors and won't be trivially cheap. That's a good reason to save your sextants, guys. Thanks again for the feedback. We're really looking forward to seeing what you think next week when Atlas of Worlds and Essence Challenge League launch. So, we will be able to respec, and we'll come back to that later. So, those are the changes they've made with the Atlas and what they've announced. Let's go ahead and dive into the Atlas. As I mentioned before, I'm not too concerned in this video about those who already know what they're going to do, so we're going to talk about some strategy for those who might not know exactly what's going on or what they want to do. In this map, I've already kind of highlighted all of the tier 6s, most of the tier 7s, some of the tier 8s and 9s. And this is kind of what mine in-game I think will look like. I do plan on having the Gorge as the only tier 13, but in my tier 15s I will lock up all 4 of them, and that will give me access to some tier 14s, which is good. But I also plan on unlocking springs, so no matter what I'm doing, I can always drop a springs from my Gorge or from any of my tier 15s. And that's not that bad, in my opinion, for me, because when I run springs maps, which have a chance to drop the Headhunter's div card and along with like 2 other really good div cards, plus they've got a great layout, the boss isn't that difficult, and it's not a bad map. You also get the option to drop Waterways or Dark Forest, which has been upgraded from a tier 8. These both have really good layouts. The bosses are not that difficult for the most part for their level. They could be harder, they could be easier, but they're not bad maps. So I think I'm going to choose to unlock Springs for a guaranteed T14, and the rest of it's up for grabs. And really, I think the tactic is going to be whatever tier map you're comfortable running, you generally want to go unlock everything up to 1 to 2 tiers lower than what you're comfortable running. So if you're the kind of player who the last couple leagues you've just gotten into maps, you're getting comfortable, maybe you've played just the tip with some tier 7s and 8s, and you still have a little bit of difficult time, but you're going to do better this league. You've got a better build, you've got a better plan, you know what you're doing, you've done this before, so you're going to go tier 9 or 10. What you probably want to do is go ahead and fill in all your tier 7s and 8s, and then the tier 9 that you want to run, whether it's Crypt for the Dapper Prodigy card farming, and because it's relatively easy, it's usually got a bunch of skeletons in it, or whether it's tier 8 for Tropical Island and Mountain Ledge, or Reef to farm the Varna Sutra. There's a lot of options here, but you want to unlock just the one of that tier, and then you kind of want to unlock one of the best tier for you for all the other tiers above that. So when you unlock a tier 10, find out what your good tier 10 is going to be. Probably not going to be Terrace. Probably not. Maybe it's Underground River. Maybe it's whatever this new one is. Maybe you've got a lot of physical mitigation and malformation piety doesn't bother you that much. So maybe it's that one. So you unlock just that one, the ones leading up to it, and you leave the other ones alone. The best way to really do this, guys, is to just trade for the map. And there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be playing the game and will be selling just maps for a Chaos, a Fusing for a tier 7 or something, because they're going to be able to get those out to those who are looking for them, just to unlock them for one specific purpose. And that will let you skip around on the Atlas. Notice I don't have anything linked to the Gorge, yet I have it on my map. I'm probably just going to buy a Gorge map from somebody, and then I can run it. When I'm running Gorges, I get this other tier 12, I get this tier 12, and I can unlock Shrine as tier 14, but I won't unlock Shrine, I'll never corrupt it to guarantee it dropping. I'll just, if I get it, I can sell it or run it myself. Same thing goes with the other ones. Just run it, complete it, and that's it. Whatever it takes to do that one. Now, some of you may be asking yourselves, Ed, you've got to unlock a tier 15 and a 14 and 13s for the Shaper's Orbs to get your other lower tier maps that you want to run. I want to get my Tropical Island up to a tier 13 map. Sweet. I'm going to use Chris's new idea and unlock that tier 14 that gets me the Shaper's Orb for my tier 9 map, and then I will scour it away. If it's cost prohibitive, I mean, I might, if it turns out to be a Springs, well then I'm in luck. You know, I doubt they're going to make Gorge and Springs the maps to do that with for Shaper's Orbs, but hey, you never know. And I'm going to unlock all the 15s anyway, so that 15s can always drop. All of them, and I'll just randomly, you know, get as many tier 15s as I can. That's my plan. I hope this video was really informational for you guys. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, please like, subscribe, leave a comment below, and as always, I will see y'all out in Rayclast.